Thinking Basketball Podcast. My name is Ben. Welcome back to yet another. It's a holiday episode, Cody. It's a holiday episode. Thanksgiving is rolling around. We're getting into that time of season where is it very wintry where you are? Is it very cold and wintry?
You know, we actually have our first winter storm warning starting at 6 p.m. Central Time here. All of the rain that's been happening all day is supposed to turn over overnight. We're going to get a few inches, so I'm expecting to wake up to my nightmare, Ben. To my nightmare.
That means shoveling and blizzards and things like that.
I know it's ridiculous to live in Minnesota and be somebody that's so actively anti-snow, but I love everything else. I don't mind the cold. I actually actively like cold. I love everything else about it, but the snow that can go away. I can be done with snow.
Is this what happened? I was watching the Raptors game last night, which is geographically not too far from your, centralized region of big bodies of water that produce moisture in the middle of the country. And I don't know if we're going to have to talk about this later in the show. The Raptors can't lose a basketball game. They continue to win a basketball game. And yet the audience, it was like watching Japanese figure skating. It was extremely quiet. I believe you could hear every single bench call from the fifth assistant in the third row. I was like, you guys know you're winning like 11 games in a row. And according, you're saying it's the snow.
I wonder if that's part of it. I can't really comment on the cultural celebrating of live sports in Toronto, right? I don't know if it's anything different. I don't know if it's just a very hyper Midwestern niceness, or if it's just the fact that's like, man, we got some snow coming. Our energies are just a little bit more down. We just want to snuggle home, get some hot chocolate, maybe a chai or two, whatever hot drink you want to take on, and just cuddle in and watch some basketball.
Well, we've done some videos lately on the YouTube channel about the past blending into the present and certain rule changes we've talked about and things like that. We've promised talking about the rules. One question that I saw after the video we did this week that was very interesting was essentially this idea of if illegal defense was such a big deal, why didn't anything change from the 2001 to the 2002 season? Why was Shaquille O'Neal still dominant? Why were all the numbers across the board exactly the same in the NBA? Why were there no trends and stylistic differences? Was illegal defense really that big of a deal? And I would say that, yes, illegal defense was that big of a deal. It just took some time before anyone realized, hey, if we strategically attack the game differently and we realize that the defense is no longer handcuffed, what can we do? And in fact, I think it was a couple years later that we started to see the defense sort of quote unquote win with the 2004 Pistons and offensive rating reaching its low point basically ever, right? I think it was 102.9 was the league average. Cody, the league average offensive rating was 102.9. It was 102.9. And I have some stats and numbers for you that might blow your mind if you're willing to hear them.
I would love to hear some numbers, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, you're aware that no one can stop NBA offenses right now. You're aware.
Oh, the starting offensive rating I know is well, let's just say you're going to say some numbers and they're going to be a little bit higher than 102.9.
Well, no, I think that's the issue. I think the issue is if you look at the starting offensive ratings in the first month or two of the season, going back in time, we're literally looking at the most efficient start to the season ever. The offensive rating in the NBA right now is almost 116 points per 100 possessions. 116 points per 100 possessions. And usually it gets higher as the season goes on. So we've gone from a decade ago where you're starting the year at 104, 105, moving to 108, 110, a couple years ago, 112. The highest we've ever seen is like 114 in the first month. Now we're at 116 points per 100 possessions.
So this is really interesting because I think your lead-in is going to be something about officiating, Ben. And I'm really interested to hear how you might want to connect these two ideas.
I'm wondering why you're mentioning officiating, Cody. Is it because the defense is not allowed to exist anymore? Could it be that the offense can take 3 or 4 steps whenever they want? I mean, we talked about that a couple videos back on the YouTube channel with the concept of the gather step and how that's changed things. Could it be the foul rates? I mean, a couple years ago, we talked about these foul ratios. And right now, we are seeing the highest free throw rates in the NBA in 19 years.
Hmm.
If you like fouls and you like free throws, you have to go back 19 seasons to get this many fouls in a basketball game. And I think what's happened is the offense has figured out that they can just drop a shoulder, right? Dip a shoulder, initiate contact, and it's either going to be a no call or I don't know why, a defensive foul. It's a defensive foul if you plow into someone while you're driving. And strategically, teams are figuring out, hey, we can space out the court more, and it's harder and harder than ever to guard one-on-one. We just talked about the Miami Heat and the way their offense is spacing the floor and attacking in isolation. Well, when everybody can dribble and everybody can take 4 steps and everybody can put your shoulder into you, it's really hard for defenses to guard that one-on-one. So I think all these things are connected.
I definitely think the thing that stands out to me that I watch a lot, beyond just the free throws, because I don't know about you, but when I'm watching, I basically have my finger on the fast forward button because I just know there's going to be quite a few stoppages. So it's almost interesting because psychologically, I don't know if I'm always aware of how slow a game might be going because I'm just immediately like, oh, free throw, skip, get to some live game action and keep going with that, which is usually why I don't like watching live games. I'll start a little bit earlier so I can get caught up on it. But the thing that does stand out that I see is this extreme loosening of continuation. I know there's always been a conversation about continuation rules where, you get a foul on your first step. In the NBA, you're able to take that second step and you go up and finish it. You get the and one, right? And there's just been a couple of plays. I almost think, I'm thinking back to one, maybe between like the Wizards and Pistons, I think it was. And I think actually Cade is the defender on this, right? So Cade's the defender. I don't remember who has the ball bringing it down, but he almost starts his gather step like 5 feet behind the 3-point line. Mm-hmm. And he gets contact with Cade right around the 3-point line and then takes a couple more steps, kind of throws up this weird little floater, and they count it as an and one. And when you watch that in slow motion, it's almost like, okay, first of all, is that a foul? Second of all, is that like a fair read of what continuation is? So I think those are the kinds of plays that stand out to me personally as I've been watching at the beginning of the season.
I think that's such a great call because not only are the players on offense seeking the contact, as you pointed out, but they will be dribbling, and this has driven me nuts for years. They'll be dribbling, seek the contact. Let's say contact happens, whether it's a foul or not. Then once they get the contact, they start acting like they're going to shoot when there's literally a rule that says that's not a shooting foul, but then they get free throws, even if they're 30 feet away. I'm starting to lose my mind. It's making some of the games more difficult to watch. There's no flow to the game. And I thought I was losing my mind. And then our old friend, friend of the show, Dave Dufour, he texted me. We were talking about this the other day on text. And he's like, yeah, it's like Slop Ball. It's just all kinds of stuff. Wait a second. What's
like the Kool-Aid man.
Look at this.
Is that you never know when I'm going to pop up on a podcast.
Is that Dave Dufour's music? What is happening right now?
Well, look, it's not very often, I don't know, that I'm complaining about the games. You know what I mean? I know that I'm known as a very positive guy, but I was texting you this morning about illegal defense and 3 in the key before I had finished my coffee because I'm just fed up. And you made that great video, and I watched it this morning, and we have a real problem. It is slop ball. It is just like everything else we deal with in life. It has no respect for our time. The games have dragged out so long. And Cody, I'm glad you brought up like you watched the game on fast forward. See, I would rather watch these games in the morning. Like I like to have like evening to cook dinner and read and be around friends. But my new show, the NBA Daily, which is great. It's a lot of fun. We watch the shows at night. So I'm watching these games live. And buddy, they are long. The stoppages are long. A Grizzlies game last week took 25 minutes to finish the last 4 minutes because of reviews, the free throw game. It is getting to the point where look, if you were a new fan, there's no way you're getting into this. No way. And it is such a stark difference between last season and this one. The difference in style of play, speed of games, just overall feeling of respect for my time is just completely diminished this season. The first week was great, and we've had like 2 good games since the first week. It's been rough.
I'm still trying to figure out how Dave got here.
Yeah, I just jumped in. I'm actually co-owner of StreamYard
Beetlejuice
now,
or
guys.
something. Just lingering the entire time. Are you always listening to our podcast?
Yeah,
What's
that's it.
happening?
I would like to think that
Dave Dufour, ladies and gentlemen, from The Athletic. Yeah. Cody, go ahead. How you feeling?
I was going to say most other podcaster, I'd like to think, just kind of have their ears in every other NBA podcast ready to rip themselves into the space-time continuum at some point.
No, we lost we lost Cody's internet. This is
then maybe the winter started.
The way the storm had started.
Am I back?
You're back. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well. But I'm glad you brought up the point, Dave, about watching live games. First of all, credit to you for doing a daily show. I can't imagine doing that because, with Ben and I, when we record these pods, we do it once a week. So there are days where I'm just not going to watch any live games. I'm going to go back a week and watch these games. I can sprint through it a little bit more. And I think a lot of us in the profession that doing podcasting and making content and stuff have the luxury of doing that. But I think most fans, like you said, everyone else that's watching is doing it live. And you're absolutely right. Like, it just kills the joy. It kills the excitement of being like, let's see what's going to happen these last couple of minutes. But no, there's all these other dumb things that are happening that extend the game so much more.
The most important part of an NBA broadcast. Look, Adam Silver had we heard about that quote that he told the baseball commissioner, whose name I can't remember.
Is it Rob Manfred?
Yeah. Manfred, that's it.
Yeah.
And he told him that, slowing or speeding up the pitchers takes away from the amount of time that people can micro bet on the game. And, I just, that tracks for me with Adam Silver and kind of like the very money and financially focused aspect of the game. Like, I even got to the point where I'm just, okay, did they start calling more fouls to slow the game down to get more commercials? I don't know. I mean, if I want to put my conspiracy hat on, I could come up with that.
If you're not watching,
have a
Dave
thought
he does have like a little kind of hat-like thing on his head.
Yeah, call it headphones.
Oh, sorry.
But I do have an idea here on the fouling thing that maybe isn't so nefarious. There's probably just more fouls this season. I think that if you looked around the league and you saw, you watch any Oklahoma City Thunder defensive possessions and like there's 10 uncalled fouls. And this isn't to say that it doesn't happen the other way, because Ben, you sent me a clip this morning and you were like, hey, what do you see here? And I saw an offensive foul that you didn't even see. There were 4 offensive fouls.
There were multiple offensive fouls on the play. The first one I didn't even catch because there were so many.
Yeah. And so I just think fouling is actually up too. Right. And that maybe could be from fatigue. It could be from pushing the envelope of what is a foul. Like the Miami Heat started this trend of, if we foul all the time, they'll eventually, like, the level of refereeing, like the level of a foul raises. I get to make more contact. They're not going to call the little chippy stuff. And I just think that you've seen so many teams have success with that, especially what Oklahoma City's doing, that could be a part of it too. I don't know, because I haven't called around. This is just, Ben and I, we've just been spitballing these ideas over text. And so I'm really trying to dig in because, I watch these games every single night. So it's hard sometimes to project. I do a lot of retrospective though. At the end of every month, I go back, like I've got these themes that I keep track of because I'm telling the narrative story of the season is kind of what I'm doing. And there's absolutely, number one, the games are longer. The games are slower. As fast as the pace is, the games they move slower. The action happens slower. There's much more standing around. And I just think that for fans, it's got to be worse.
I would like to know who wants all these fouls. Like when they put in the high five rule this year, I'm just like,
unbelievable.
Who's calling for this? It feels like no fans are excited about this. No players are excited about this. So it's very confusing for me to see this trend. They allowed defenders to defend a little bit more at the end of 2024 and into the playoffs and whatnot. And the product, I thought, got a lot better. And you just made an interesting point, which is at any point in time in NBA history, if the officials start to crack down on something, the players will adapt.
Yep.
So, yes, to a point, the Heat or Riley's Knicks in the 90s or whomever, James Harden, rip-throughs, whatever, they can push against the referees to wear them down. but the pressure can go the other way as well, where the refs just start at the beginning of the year and they're like, yeah, we're not going to allow that.
Right.
And if they let up, the players will win that battle. But if they don't let up, the players will adapt. And so that's where I'm at. I'm just it's very confusing to see what's happened overnight, and I feel like people are numb to it. I feel like there's a couple comments in our audience right now talking about, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being a sort of poster person for foul drawing and things like that. I turn on the games this year, and Shai to me is like the 189th biggest grifter. I mean, he's not even doing the stuff anymore. People have already passed him in one off season. So, Dave, any final thoughts before we move off on this? And yes, Cody,
I want to jump in here just to push back a little bit from this conversation. First of all, Dave, I think kind of what you're talking about sounds like the Draymond Green effect, where when you come in here and you're kind of in the ref's face, like before tip off, you're just going to get a lot more leeway, right? Like that's the kind of thing that you come in that aggressive and all of a sudden you're allowed to do so much more. But when I think about the Thunder, right, we're talking about, defenses are having a lot more time. You can't touch these offensive players, things like that. I'm looking at play-by-play stats right now. It looks like the Thunder are currently 22nd in the league in fouls per 100 possessions. Yeah. The Thunder also have an extremely physical defensive line, and currently their defense is, 100. They're holding teams to 103 points per 100 possessions, which is about 7 points per 100 possessions. Yeah. Better than second place. So if this is all the case, then why is this Thunder team able to continue succeeding so well off their extremely physical defense?
Copycat league doesn't mean you're any good at it, right? Give me fast horses. I can win you a race. And they've got long arm guys who have fast feet, who can defend. Okay. So they get away with more than other teams trying to do the same tactics. I would say. I'm just kind of spitballing on this, right?
I won't hear this. Not on this podcast. I will not hear this.
You won't hear the faster horses.
Because I think it's so bad right now that I would like to allow the defense to draw blood before we allow a foul.
Now, look,
that's the equivalent of what the offense is getting away with.
And I'm with you on that. But I think that this is why we're seeing so much more than last year. It isn't necessarily a change in the officiating. It's just that there is maybe more contact. But there's still, if you're going to allow the offense to set illegal screens in the way they do, then why can't the defense fight to get around them? Like the guys getting called, okay, I can't bump the ball handler when I'm getting bumped into the ball handler. Like those kind of calls need to go away. Most of the contact around the rim calls, I actually think that the referees do a pretty good job of getting right. They get way more of the bang stuff that's like block charge. They are right about than the stuff outside operating around screens, in my opinion.
I actually think part of the problem is that the refs themselves are so consistently good at the things they want to enforce. Right. That compared to 20 or 40 years ago, the actual refs on the ground are unbelievable. But the problem is the philosophical approach to some of these calls keeps moving in different directions. You want to get the final word here before we get back on track on the show?
No, I don't.
All right, Dave Dufour on The Athletic. You can catch him every Monday through Friday.
It's me Monday through Friday. Yeah, Zena S, and then we do Slam and Jam on the weekends. It's fun.
There you go. The Athletic Podcast Network. Dave, thanks for crashing our show.
Yeah, and thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you later.
Good to see you guys.
See you, Dave.
All right, Cody, that was a lot of fun.
You're gonna leave.
I had to boot Dave. And do you have any final thoughts on this? I mean, I just think we have gone off the deep end to start the season. It'll be interesting to see if there's any correction to this.
I do think, we just brought it at the end there. I do think the refs and officiating and stuff have done a really good job, like Dave was saying, with some of these verticality type of plays. Like I feel like I'm seeing some good contests from littles, from bigs, and whatever else. People flying in there, and if they stay straight up, they usually get some legal good calls for them. The one thing I know, I talked about the step from like so far behind the 3-point line and long continuation. I think the other issue that you talked about are screens. Ben, I have no idea what a legal screen is anymore. I just don't. Like if you go back to 2009, you watch the Boston Celtics, like Kevin Garnett, like this is one of the kings of the subtle and not so subtle illegal screens all the time. He would be a tame screener right now. Like some of these like literal football blocks that people are throwing out there when people are moving, like literally moving when you're not supposed to move on a screen. So I think screens are an egregious aspect of this that make it almost impossible. Like I'm watching Amen Thompson trying to fight around some of these screens sometimes. So like even he's not able to be a shadow around some of these football plays. So I don't know. There's a lot of issues. The game is still, I've enjoyed watching a lot of the game, but maybe it's just because I'm skipping over some of these stoppages that happen throughout the games.
Well, I think they're teaching this technique, which is what I'm saying about the players adapting. So you get an off season, which is what we've had, and the league says, hey, I want to teach you how to be a better offensive player. Here's how to travel. Here's how to seek out the contact. They're teaching the players to seek out the contact, drop the shoulder, dip the shoulder. And when you set screens, get a hit, and don't just get a hit, but get your hands up in his pads, drive through the pads so you can protect the quarterback, shove him all the way to the sideline. There's a lot going on there. Do you want to talk about what we were going to talk about today? Originally?
Yeah. Let's celebrate some basketball, Ben. Let's do some positive things.
Well, my big question today for this show, which is completely off the, I mean, imagine this being your first Thinking Basketball podcast. Someone says you should listen to this podcast. They do a lot of serious analysis about basketball. What I wanted to ask you, Cody, is we've got a couple surprise teams in the league this season, and it's a lot of fun. These teams are really fun, and I think if you look at the preseason prognostications and all the betting lines and whatnot, nobody thought that the Toronto Raptors would be 13-5 as of recording this and in second place in the Eastern Conference. Nobody thought the Miami Heat would have the start to the year that they're having and their offense. I don't know why I'm mentioning Miami. I'm not even sure. The other one that's big is Phoenix. Phoenix Suns. We could throw Miami in there. The Phoenix Suns are 11-7. So any of those teams, I guess my big question is, are they for real? Do we think they are legitimately good teams? Do we think there might be a contender among these surprise teams? My brain always goes back to 2005 when the 7 seconds or less Suns, they weren't known as the 7 seconds or less Suns then. They were known as the terrible Phoenix Suns, and they started the year on fire, and then you just had to figure out the entire year. It's like, is this really happening?
I think the team, since we brought them up already, we're in the Midwest. They might be getting cold. Let's warm up Toronto a little bit. Let's shower a little bit of love on the Raptors and just point out a couple of things that we think are exciting and just try and figure out, Ben, how good this Raptors team is. So is there anywhere specific that you want to start with Toronto?
Well, I find the offense to be quite fun. Yes, the offense is quite fun. Darko, he just is into the deep bag of X's and O's, Cody. So all the nerdy stuff, it feels like as the season has started to pick up, he's going to sprinkle it into the offense, or maybe more accurately, get the players to go to it in the flow of the offense. So yes, we're going to have 5-out sets where we get the ball to the top and we have the big man running our delay action and he can move it to either side and play the handoff game. But also, hey, if it goes into the post, Golden State Warriors split cuts. They're borrowing some stuff from Indiana where if the ball changes sides and you have a big man screening, he's going to float around the elbow, and they try to open the center of the court and slip to the basket a lot of slips down the middle of the court from flare screens. And so there's all sorts of like nerd corner, hardcore X's and O's stuff. And that combined with, you watch Scotty Barnes grab and go and push the pace. Brandon Ingram is going to play some isolation. They have different shooters and there's just a lot. They have a lot of depth. There's a lot when you start to put it together where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this is actually an offense. This is a pretty solid NBA offense. I'm
going to hit the big old pause button on Scotty Barnes right now, because this has to be the entry point to some of the cool stuff that's going on offensively. First of all, you say the delay types of actions, right? And I know Pirtle's out there quite a bit.
That was for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a little delay action, Ben, a little delay action. Pirtle's out there with Barnes. Mamu's out there with Barnes, right? But then there are some of these times when Barnes himself is the 5.
Mamu.
Yeah. Mamu. Yeah.
Mamu. Yeah.
Are you correcting me? Did I say it
No,
wrong?
I'm just wondering if you're going to say his full name.
I'm not going to say his full. He used to play for the Bucks, Ben. He was on the
good.
Bucks. And here's the thing: when he was on the Bucks, we just referred to him as Mamu. And it's interesting now when I'm seeing like him getting a lot more playing time at the Raptors, they pronounce his full name. So it's actually kind of jarring to me to adjust to being like, oh, these commentators are actually saying the full name, and I'm not practiced with it. So I'm going to go back to my Bucks time with him, call him Mamu.
This is one of the greatest things. So you're doing whatever you can to not say Sandro Mamukelashvili's name.
Right now I'm just not going to. Okay. And I think that's acceptable because I'm honoring his Bucks legacy for when he was with us. Cool player. He stretches it out. He's running all over the place. But what I want to talk about is Barnes, because when he's at the 5, you talk about the delay action that he's running. He's up there. He's doing all kinds of dribble handoffs. But all of a sudden, right? And I saw this a couple times, I think, when Embiid was defending him when they were playing the 76ers a few weeks ago. The dribble handoff actions don't happen. They all kind of dissipate, and it's like, all right, Barnes, let's see what's going to happen. And he's like, I got you, Embiid. I'm taking you straight off the dribble. And he just goes to the basket, and he gets the rim, finishes with a layup. He has somebody smaller on him. It's a bulky dude out there. He posts him up. He brings him down to the post a little bit more. And I've liked that little turnaround jumper he's got. Right. Mm-hmm. So if the dribble handoff doesn't happen, he's able to do a little bit more in the half court than he has the last few seasons. But Ben, what we need to highlight,
please,
what we need to talk about.
I thought you were not going to mention it. I can't believe this.
The Evan Mobley matchup last night.
Oh, this is not where I thought you were going.
The Evan Mobley matchup, because there are multiple times. Jokic does this so well, but Barnes, when he gets that speed, he's like Sonic the Hedgehog out there. He gets the rebound, and he is sprinting. And there's a couple of possessions. There's one in particular where Mobley is just left in the dust, and he just throws this beautiful no-look laydown to somebody in transition for the layup, right? And there's just very few big men that can keep up with somebody like Barnes, who wants to pass in the same way that Barnes does. And he's just such a funky, weird player. And Darko just knows exactly how to unlock what he's doing with this offense. So I think Barnes, in just like the strange offensive player that he is just the perfect engine for this Raptors team.
I did not have Scotty Barnes destroying Evan Mobley on my bingo card. How have the Raptors played the Cavaliers, who last week during the power rankings, Cody was like, yes, there's a 99.8% chance the Cavaliers win the Eastern Conference. And now we have the Raptors. They've played them 3 times. They're 3-0 against the Cavaliers. And I know last night, whenever they played them in the last day or two, they did not have all the horses. The Cavs are a little bit injured, but man, that matchup specifically with Barnes, especially if they go to Barnes at the 5 and play small ball, he not only outruns everyone down the court, but let me turn around and make it a question for you in the audience. Is he the definitive grab and go big man in basketball right now? Because the second Scotty Barnes gets a rebound, I hit pause on my game and I go get some popcorn. I go get some ice cream and then I come back and I hit play and I'm like, what's he going to do in the next 4 seconds? Because Cody, this next part is his passing.
Yeah.
Scotty Barnes' passing this season has been fantastic. I feel like he's been one of the best passers I've seen. He's a willing passer. He's a highly manipulative passer at this point in his career. I mean, we're talking about stuff as simple as a 3-on-2. He's going to give you a little okie doke, look into the corner, no look pass for the layup to make that pass and that opening a little bit wider. And we have to step back, and this is a classic Kodak. We have to give you credit. I believe in the 25 under 25 draft for the last N number of years, you have taken Scotty Barnes right at the top of the draft. No matter what's happening with Scotty Barnes, you have not wavered in the face of any kind of adversity. And I feel like that bet is starting to pay off because he looks quite good.
There's about 7 minutes left in the third quarter against the Cavaliers. He's got a post up 1-on-1, right? Defense is coming. They're sending a double across the baseline.
Yeah.
Okay. And Barnes is sending him. And he sees the double coming. He sees Jacoby Walter coming weak side towards the basket. Ben, the pass that he makes at this point.
You've left out a part of the story.
What's the other part of the story?
There's still a defender standing next to Jacoby Walter.
There's a third defender in the paint.
Thank you.
And Barnes sees all of this, and he's like, What if I look at the crowd in front of me and throw a pass that literally I've only seen Nikola Jokic and Magic Johnson throw, whips it through, like the defender like doesn't realize that the ball is coming at him until it's basically at his head. And then he like turns, Walter gets it. I don't think Walter's able to finish. I might be mistaken, but I don't know if the layup goes in. It is truly one of the best passes of the season. And it is just one of a few passes that are just so incredibly high level from Barnes that, man, I don't know, like the high octane speed of what they're all doing out there, both in transition and the half court. It's what I've been waiting for with him. This is why I've consistently drafted him every single year, because, you know, along with the defensive motor that he has, the vision and the willingness to pass. I think the willingness to pass is the most important part, because he's a guy that's a pass first player. He wants to be passing his teammates open, and he wants to try these audacious things, right? And so you take all of that, and you just have a player that's having a blast and teammates that are having a blast around him.
Is he an all-star? Because he's definitely been flirting with all-star this season. When you watch him play, you tune in, you start looking at the metrics. There's some flirtation. I don't know if they've gone on a date. I don't have all the intel if he's gone on a single date yet. But the question is, will he be with the all-star team in 2 months when the party rolls into Los Angeles?
Well, I think what's interesting is he was an all-star in the 24 season. So
what? I don't care. 24 season. That's when they used to allow defenders to play defense.
I'm just saying that there's precedent for him being an all-star. I think right now, I don't have a ballot in front of me. I don't know who all the forwards are in the East just off the top of my head. I don't even remember how all-stars go, if it's positionless and whatever else. I can't worry about these changes, Ben. But, you know, I'm thinking Jalen Johnson's obviously there, Evan Mobley, Giannis Antetokounmpo. There's Bam Adebayo. There's a lot of good forwards in the East. So can I definitively say that like he would make the all-star team? Not necessarily, but do I think he's playing at an all-star level?
Yes.
If not, he's approaching it.
Okay, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. That's why I have no interest in 2024 or the other players in the East. What I'm getting at is, are we legitimately seeing a kind of ascension with some two-way impact that we've talked about before, where you go, okay, yeah, I'm never going to name 25 or 30 better players in the league than this guy. And I think the only reason I'm framing that question, besides the fact that people love to figure that out if someone's truly ascended to perennial all-star status, is if this team is going to be legitimately good, if this team is going to compete for a playoff spot and then be interesting and that they could win a playoff series, and we'll talk a little bit more about the rest of the team, that top player thing kind of feels important. The difference between the 42nd best player and the 18th best player in the NBA, historically, that makes a difference.
So here's something that I'm keeping an eye on, right? And I'm not using any of these numbers as anything definitive, but I'm keeping an eye on them because they make me a little nervous. When Ingram and Barnes are on the court together, right? It's about 400 minutes, almost exactly 400 minutes. Their net rating is only plus 0.7. Right? They're basically neutral when Ingram and Barnes are on the court together, right?
But then isn't that an Ingram thing, or am I not remembering it?
See, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. You get Ingram on the court without Barnes, 200 minutes, jumps up to almost a plus 10 net rating. But then you get Barnes on without Ingram, again, almost about 200 minutes, a nearly plus 19 net rating, right? So, you know, we have criticisms of Ingram. Right. I think there might be some overlap with skills and wanting the ball and not playing that free flowing style and whatever else. So, yes, I think that is part of what's going on. But also, I don't know. It's weird to me when I see two of the high level minutes per game guys out there and their net rating is basically neutral. Because then I'm looking at it and like, all right, so this Raptors team is just one of these really well coached teams where you're bringing a bunch of the bench guys, right? You get Jamal Shed out there, you get Murray Boyles out there, you get all these guys that are just making these crazy impact. And then I'm like, are you beating up on the other team's benches as well? So I think that's what gives me pause. Is I'm like, is there something about Barnes and the starting lineup that I need to keep an eye on? Or is there something about Ingram and Barnes and the way that they're interacting together that's more of a concern?
I think it's a small sample thing.
Okay.
With Toronto. Yeah.
Okay.
We will see what happens moving forward. And yes, the Ingram's style traditionally is not going to drive a ton of impact once you get on a really good team. But I think this Raptors offense, and this is maybe the big takeaway for me, Cody, from starting to actually dive into them recently and understanding them. I think this Raptors offense is legitimately good. They're legitimately good. Does that mean they're going to be a top 3 offense and set the world on fire? I don't think so. I don't think they even have the personnel for that, even if you had some kind of perfect scheme. But I think they're a good offense. I think they're a top 10 type offense, top 7 type offense, something like that. And I think when you can drive separation relative to the league by outscoring people more efficiently with your offense, your defense kind of only needs to be about average for you to be a playoff team, and maybe kind of a spunky playoff team, that could possibly win around if you get the right matchup in a weak conference or something like that. So I kind of feel like with the Raptors, you tell me if you disagree, I don't love the defense. I like the offense. I like the development of the team. I like the depth a lot. Some of these bench guys, I mean, Darko has them coordinated and playing well and flowing and sharing the ball. Jamal Shed is really exciting for me off the bench. We've talked about Emmanuel quickly in the starting lineup. You mentioned Mamu already. He's playing really well off the bench. They go 9, 10, 11 players deep, and they're getting more out of these guys. So I think they're kind of legitimately good. I don't think they're going to finish with the 2 seed or win 56 games or anything, but to me, of the surprise teams, they're probably the best.
I think Colin Murray-Boyles, he's maybe my second favorite player to watch on this Raptors team, right? And when I'm trying to do a really quick heuristic on defenders, right? We'll talk about defense for a second. I just want to see if you pop, right? Like first pass over when I'm watching, do I feel you on defense, right? And I'm going to go back to a 76ers game again because I'm watching, this is just like one quarter. He's like gets on Oubre, who's bringing the ball up, and just strips him at half court. Like just one of those, like, here's the varsity player defending an 8th grader, like, oh, taking your cookies sort of thing, right? Then all of a sudden, Edgecombe cutting to the basket. Murray-Boyles cuts down there, swats him, right? Gets a nice block in the paint. I'm like, wow, there's some flexibility defensively. All right. Another play. Someone's driving to the paint. I don't remember who has the ball. Kicks it out to the corner. He flies out there and deflects it out there. This is an extremely versatile defender. When you have somebody like him and Barnes out there, you're absolutely right, Ben, where like I don't necessarily know what the ceiling of this defense is, but when you have really versatile defenders that can pick up from midcourt, that can fly around and get a bunch of deflections. So this team gets a lot of deflections. That can rotate down and block people at the rim without being just like a simple drop defender. I think that raises your ceiling a little bit more in the playoffs. So I think almost the way that they're constructed with some of their bench guys, they might be more dangerous in the playoffs than they might be getting credit. Do I think that they're going to make a run to the Eastern Conference Finals? Not necessarily. That's not what I'm saying. But I think they could, if they ended up in this right now, if we started the playoffs and they ended up in the second round, I wouldn't be surprised. And obviously I know Murray-Boyles is a rookie tax, all that kind of stuff, but he has shown some incredibly great flashes as a very versatile defender.
I think for me, it's Shed and Jacoby Walter. The 2 categories that you mentioned. And of course, then in the starting lineup, they have guys like RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, bigger names who command more, ball attention in the past. But I think they've played fairly egalitarian for the start of the season. And I think they're led by Barnes in that category. So that's the Raptors. That's the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Phoenix Suns. The other team that when I saw them in the preseason, I thought they would be a little bit more competitive than people gave them credit for. But man, I did not think they would be, as of recording this, in the 6th seed in the Western Conference. They've got some decent wins under their belt. They have played competitive basketball. And I think there's a couple areas we could go here to unpack this team and try to make sense of them. But I want to start with Devin Booker. Because to me, Devin Booker is playing great basketball. And a month into the season, it's like, could this be his peak? And I think when I floated that to you the other day in between episodes, you were like, well, wait a second, his peak was a couple of years ago. And I was like, well, why wouldn't his peak be now? I don't know. Do you have thoughts on this or?
Well, I do think this is really interesting. What I appreciate about him, I can't say appreciate about Booker. Listen, here's the thing. When you get right before you're going to be sick, there's just some indicators.
Is that where you're at?
For me, one of those indicators is my throat. Like it just feels hot. It
Oh,
hurts to
no.
swallow, and I can't get the final syllable. So the word appreciate, it just kind of, it got lost. It got lost in the phlegm, Ben. And so we're just going to have to power through it.
Lost in the, okay,
Lost.
yeah.
That's what we need to cut and send to the socials, Ben. Lost in the phlegm. Devin Booker, and this is what he's done the last few years, obviously, but he starts his offensive sets like he's an early 2000s 90s star. And I mean that in the nicest way possible.
Mhm.
He's not always bringing it up. He's not the clear initiator that's standing back and ready for a pick and roll or just going to isolate. He's coming off screens. He's starting down the paint. If he was in 2002, he'd come off so many floppy actions, like someone would try and put him into a disk drive, you know? So he just has that sort of flexibility offensively. And the passing to me is something that has developed more over these last couple seasons. Like he feels a lot more comfortable blending in. Like I'm going to get the catch, maybe up fake quickly, get downhill, one-handed, like underhand lob pass for a huge jam or something like that. And so maybe in that area, I could point to it and say that, yeah, Devin Booker looks like he's developed there. But I think my point in texting you that is while I was watching him, I was like, I don't necessarily know if he looks appreciably better in any specific way. Is that something that you disagree with?
Well, you don't think decision-making and things like that can be an area of the game that carries so much value that it overrides a little bit of athleticism or look, hey, my handle's better or something like that? I mean, I do think he's probably a better passer at this point in his career than he's ever been. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I
Okay.
do. Yeah.
Okay. So that is something to build off of, right? If even if it's not a huge change in your passing, if this is your best passing and then your decision making where you're trimming fat on your shot selection and your decision making about where you're moving the ball and where you're moving your body, which is something we talked a lot about in our summer series. And I thought coming out of that series, Booker was one of the winners of the concepts that we talked about, where it's like, hey, his movement, his gravity, his off-ball game, yes, he might be giving something back in the sense that he takes these tough shots and he makes these tough shots, but there is a difference between making tough shots at 42% and making them at 50%, right? That's the difference in some ways between Devin Booker and Kevin Durant in his prime, right? 50% on tough shots is a big deal. 42% on tough shots is nice, but your efficiency is going to give back some of those points on the scoreboard. So to me, when I watch Phoenix, Booker's efficiency right now, he's actually in a shooting slump to start the year, so it might end up being better. But his efficiency is because he's the only dude out there and defenses are loading up on him. And this is the best I've seen in terms of his command of the court, where he's accepting the double team, waiting for the double team, passing players open, lots of hockey assists. And I don't know what his number, here it is. He's actually averaging 7 assists a game. 7 assists a game, and that number could be higher if he had better shooters or if some of these young players start to develop and make more shots. But it does have this feel for someone who is not dominating the ball. He is not going, everyone get out of the way. This team doesn't have other stars. I have to do everything. He's playing within the flow of his offense, the flow of the offense, and he's letting the defense react to him to help his teammates. That to me is not something to be dismissed lightly when we talk about player value.
So I don't want to say I'm dismissing the idea that he's a lot better, but when I think about the contexts of the Suns he's played with, right, going back to 2021 and 2022, a couple of very strong Suns teams, right, Mikal Bridges flanking him, DeAndre Ayton down low, Chris Paul still at the tail end, the twilight of maybe whatever peak he might be at that point, a very different role from what we're seeing. But you dive into some of the numbers, you look at some of the possessions when Chris Paul is off the court, ballooning points per game. I think his efficiency either stays the same or keeps going up in those 21 playoffs, right? He's creating a lot more for teammates. So you see it developing at that point. Kevin Durant shows up. He needs to share the ball with somebody else who's, likes to operate in the same mid-range area, another tough shot maker. Booker kind of has to adapt to that. So you're absolutely right in terms of defenses are loading up on him a lot more, but also he's played basketball in 3 very different offensive contexts this decade. And you're right about the decision-making. Maybe it is better in some specific way, but I guess my overall point, and maybe I'm picking nits here, maybe I'm being a little too pedantic, Ben, is that when I watch him, I'm like, I don't necessarily know if I can say he's much better than his peak, that he's appreciably better than any other point in his career. But I do understand what you're trying to say about the decision-making, but also I'm like, maybe he didn't have the space to have that decision-making those last few years.
I buy that. I totally buy that. I think that's in line with what I'm saying. If you don't have noticeable changes in your skill set, your physical performance, or your ball handling, shooting, whatever, then it's kind of tough to have a major change in your impact, I think. Although I do think the decision making lever that governs all these skills that you have on the court is a big deal. And I don't want to make it sound like that overnight Devin Booker has become Magic Johnson, and before that he was, some player on the extreme opposite end of the spectrum. I don't want to besmirch a star and name a big, someone who can't even make the NBA, someone who's like a classic case of just an incredible raw talent, and then you put him out there and you're like, okay, he doesn't know how to play, basically. But I do think that's an important place to start for Phoenix, because I think he gives them a star level player. And I think then you start saying, well, what can you put around a star level player in today's game to get this kind of floor raising? And the first place I go is the defense. And the Suns defense has been pretty solid. I think you have to give tremendous credit to new coach Jordan Ott. The thing I see is they are shrinking the floor. They very much have that like 2025 Thunder spirit, which a lot of teams are copying of. We're going to pack the paint. We're going to get in your driving gaps more. We're going to clog up your offense basically and try to rotate and swarm and get bodies near the basket. And I mean, Cody, I was watching a game the other day, and it was like, if you squinted, you were watching last year's Thunder. It was against the Rockets. Alperen Şengün's going to give a handoff to like Amen Thompson. Amen Thompson goes, "No, I'm backdooring. I'm being overplayed." He backdoors. He's wide open. All of a sudden, Dylan Brooks comes out of nowhere off the corner, helps on the back door. And you know what the other defender did, Cody, without missing a beat? Peel switches right to Dylan Brooks' man. So all of a sudden, this huge breakdown, this huge advantage that Amen Thompson's athleticism creates, the beautiful passing of Alperen Şengün, it goes nowhere because you're on the same page, because you have this coordination. So I really like watching guys like Ryan Dunn defensively. He's very exciting for me. Obviously, they have Dylan Brooks. Obviously, they have veteran Royce O'Neal. Oso Ighodaro is another one of these guys. Isaiah Livers. So Jordan Goodwin's man defense and his activity has been really good. So some of it is a little scrappy, but when you add in Booker's offense, when you add in what I think Grayson Allen has given them offensively as well as a shooter, Colin Gillespie has had moments as a shooter and spacer. That's the kind of team, defense and shooters and spacers, that you would put around a star player like Booker.
I need to start here with the defense with Dylan Brooks, because I don't, person that not everyone loves to celebrate all the time, but he needs to be celebrated. I think he has changed the defensive culture of this Phoenix Suns team. When you have somebody that's big and physical, and most importantly, Ben, takes a lot of honor in the defense that you're bringing out there, it completely changes everything, right? He wants to defend the best offensive players in the other team. He wants to make those kinds of rotations. He wants to mix it up and be physical. And when you have somebody out there that's just day after day doing that sort of thing, rising tide lifts all boats, Ben. And I think that's a key part of what's happening for the Suns. And I'm not saying these other Suns defenders would be just complete bums without him, but he is setting the tone in a really important way for the rest of these Suns guys. Because when you think of defense, there's a lot of elements that go into it. There's obviously the heart and the willpower and things. Being extremely athletic helps to be able to make some of these plays. You have Livers, Isaiah Livers, right? Did I make that up? Yeah, Isaiah Livers. Just, oh my God, I love this dude. Someone on the broadcast team made a comment about him. I'm trying to figure out how they phrased it, but they said that he delivers, Ben. He delivers. It's amazing stuff right there. And he can showcase his athleticism on the defensive ends, rotating around and getting some blocks at the rim, getting out in transition. Ryan Dunn, incredibly athletic guy. Ighodaro, like you said, is an athletic guy. Of these guys that are high hustle players. Colin Gillespie has maybe the GOAT hustle play of the season. I'm trying to think of who it was against. Was it maybe against the Hawks a few weeks ago, where there's this long offensive rebound? It's kind of bouncing from the side. He comes from the weak wing and just sprints over
the other way.
Slaps it away, dives out of bounds to save the ball underneath the basket for an and one layup. And when you watch that kind of thing, you're like, you can't teach that anywhere. You can't teach that sort of just, I'm going to lay it all out there to try and get another easy point. And that's exactly what he did. So I think the Suns defensive roster is really interesting in the way that they're constructed that way.
Cody, is there anything you like more in life than hustle plays on the basketball court? Is there anything that does it for you more than someone running really fast and sprinting and jumping and diving onto the hardwood and sliding, saving a basketball?
What was the play you sent me? You sent me the Malik Monk play.
Yeah, the Malik Monk play, yeah.
Oh my God. End of the Timberwolves game. And we're talking horizontal overtime, Ben. We played 48 plus minutes of NBA basketball. Horizontal, saving the ball. He's got one hand on the court so he can reach out and save. And I'm going to be honest with you, but you sent it to me. I was watching when I was walking down the hall at school. I got chills. I literally got chills. It's like, this is what it is all about, is those kind of just lay it on the line play. So yeah, I think that is the quickest way to my heart, is just the Dennis Rodman classic picture. You're just hanging it all out there. You're fighting for the offensive rebounds, tapping it like 7 times over Charles Barkley before you secure it. That's just it. But that's basketball, Ben.
It's basically like when you know someone loves cat pictures and it'll make their day. When I see a hustle play, I mean, this was the full Rodman from Malik Monk. And I was like, I have to send this to Cody. It will warm his heart. And that's it. So if you see hustle plays, tag Cody, send them to him on his socials, things of this nature. This is my favorite comment from this episode from the audience, Cody. Many of these names sound fake. Are these real players? Are these real names? They are real players. The Suns and the Raptors are real teams. And Cody, you've dodged my questions long enough. Are the Suns for real? Do you believe in this start for them? 11-7. What do you think?
To surprise no one, I'm also going to dodge this one because I have to do this, Ben. I have to. The audience has been waiting for this moment. Friday, right? We got the fancy courts because it's the NBA Cup or whatever they call it. Fancy courts, very colorful. My daughter gets really excited watching the Timberwolves one. She goes, purple, very exciting stuff.
Can you remind everyone how old your daughter is?
And she's almost 2.
Okay,
she's almost 2. She loves the color purple. So end of the Wolves game, Devin Booker fouls out against the Wolves. There's 3 minutes and 16 seconds left at this point, right? Then all of a sudden the Wolves go on a little run. The Suns are up 1 at this point. The Wolves go on a run. They go up 113-105. Okay. Royce O'Neal, we haven't even said his name yet, grabs an offensive rebound, puts it back. Colin Gillespie makes this insane inbound steal. Again, like they're inbounding it. He flies over, steals it, throws it over. Jordan Goodwin hits a 3. Bam. Then Brooks, playing some brilliant nail defense on the other time, gets the steal, throws it down. Goodwin gets in transition, 113-112, 1-point game. Then Goodwin steals the inbound. There's another inbound steal within the last 3 minutes of the game. There's a foul ends up happening. Anthony Edwards goes to the line at the other end. He misses both free throws, misses them both. Gillespie comes down the other end, hits this ridiculous running layup. The Suns end up winning the game. I mean, that is the sort of thing that documentaries and movies are made out of, is that sort of heart and hustle and just willpower to win it all. I don't even know what you mean by your question, Ben. What do you mean by the Suns being
Cody,
real?
We did the power rankings 7 days ago. We did not talk about the Phoenix Suns. I did have the Toronto Raptors written down, but we completely forgot to talk about them at the end. We were trying to sort out the middle class, the lower middle class, the middle class, the upper middle class. Usually when we do the first power rankings of the season, I feel fairly oriented. I feel like I have solid ground under my feet after we do that first episode of the power rankings. And I came out of last week and I was like, boy, after Oklahoma City and Denver and Houston, it's really mushy under my feet. Things are changing around quickly and the Raptors can't lose a game. And so you've dodged it the entire episode. I'm not going to let you get away with it. How do you feel? I mean, I guess Toronto, you said you could see them winning a playoff series. So I think that's an answer. Mm-hmm. But for the Suns, I mean, do you feel like last week, if we do it again, do you say, wow, I got to put Phoenix ahead of Minnesota or something like that?
I think Phoenix is probably around-ish Minnesota, right? I'm not willing to say that they're better. I might, if I have to like give a percentage, I'm still probably leaning a little bit Minnesota on this one. But I think they're around, they're circling each other, Ben. They're within each other's orbit.
And what about the Heat? If we talk about these 3 teams today, the Heat with that very creative offense, where would you put them among these 3 teams? I
actually really struggle. So if I'm power ranking these 3 teams, the Raptors,
these 3 teams, yeah,
the Heat, and the Suns, that's a really tough question, Ben. You're not allowed to ask me such tough questions on the podcast.
To support us, patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. We got our stats board up, teams and players throughout the season. It's where we do a lot of our research for videos and podcasts and things like that. It's also just a great way to directly support us. We have a regular tier with the stats. You can get all our extra member video content that we put up over there. You can also get that on YouTube if you're interested. Patreon.com/I can't even talk, Cody. Patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. Yes, this is live. There's no edits. We saw that earlier when Dave Dufour crashed the program. I am feeling like Phoenix is a step below Toronto and Miami amongst these three teams. Phoenix is a little bit scrappier. They're a little bit more competitive. I don't know how far away they are from these teams, but I would be at this point surprised if the Suns, who are 4 games over 500 right now, could grow on that as the season went on. 6 games over 500, 8 games over 500. Whereas the Raptors and the Heat, I think, have pathways to winning a good amount of regular season games. And I think they have advantages that they've created primarily with their offense, but then they're also solid defensive teams. I mean, something we alluded to in that video is that the Heat are in many ways a team of 3-and-D defenders that has, hey, here's an offense for 3-and-D defenders. One of the Cal Poly assistant coaches, they run the same offense there. And he said the same thing to me when I was talking to him about the Heat. He's basically like, we needed a solution for how do we create an offense with a bunch of switchable defenders. We needed to build up from switchable defenders and versatile defenders, and now we can give them an offense. So I think Miami with that two-way thing and Eric Spoelstra, and Toronto with the offense stuff that they have going on, and even the talent on those teams. I know we mentioned Booker as probably the best player among all three teams, maybe, but man, I think the depth and the talent on the other teams is a little bit better than Phoenix from these surprise clubs.
Don't you think that when you get to a playoff series, I feel like we've seen historically that depth doesn't necessarily transfer to being like a high level playoff team. So part of me wonders, like, we get to the playoffs, usually defenses are allowed to be a little bit more physical. Defenses that, have some guys on the perimeter that can rough you up, see a little bit more success. And I just wonder how the Heat offensive system would fare in that sort of environment. So I don't want to rain on anyone's parade. I love watching Miami. I think if they're not my favorite watch, they're like top 3, 4. If they had Wemby, like, obviously, but if you don't have Wemby on your team, you're just not my favorite watch. There's so much fun to watch, but I just have a little bit of skepticism for when we get to a playoff series.
Can I ask you something before you go, since you're not going to be here next week?
Yes.
Give me your best league pass teams right now that you like watching.
Am I factoring in current injuries?
I would like to know when they're healthy. I would like to know what the league pass rankings look like.
Okay. Number 1, like, with no hesitation, is the Spurs.
Spurs with Wemby.
Absolutely. Spurs with Wemby and Castle. Like, Castle and Wemby together is so exciting.
That's must watch. Must watch. Everyone, when we keep track of the games we watch for Thinking Basketball, it's like everyone sees every Spurs game every night.
Oh, man. Denver is really fun to watch. Jokic is on such an all-time heater that it's must watch, in the sense that 30 years from now, I want to be like, yeah, I watched Jokic when he was just cooking everybody in 2026. Like, you don't even understand what it was like. Like, it just blew everyone's mind. So they might be number 2. Toronto and Miami are a lot higher.
Yes, this is what I was getting at. If you have not seen Toronto, and what's funny is I had seen like a game or two of Toronto earlier in the season scouting other teams. And then I started watching Toronto and I was like, there's got to be more Toronto game. You're just looking for those good matchups. And I'm going back. I'm like, I've already seen some of this game, but I don't remember. You rewatch. It's like seeing it with new eyes. Toronto is a very, very good watch for me right now. They're definitely up there.
No, and I think the Barnes experience in itself is really fun because, like I said, he's so much more different than anyone else that's getting shine on an offense.
Listening to the broadcasters try to avoid saying Dick.
Yeah.
They just constantly say Grady Dick.
Yep. Every single time.
Is kind of funny, but also it's kind of sad. It's just a name. Because it used to be a really common name.
I know.
Yeah. It used to be a stand-in for a gumshoe, a private eye, a dick. You see?
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's a fun fact.
Yeah. But I mean, this is getting out of control where they're afraid to say sounds and things like that. I mean, Richard Short was Dick. That was very common. Yeah.
The same thing happens with Gay over in Atlanta.
Yeah, they do.
Right?
They don't say Gay's name. They say Mo Gay.
Every single time. I don't remember
Every
Rudy Gay
time.
getting that treatment. He never got the treatment.
Rudy Gay did not get that treatment because we were a better society back then.
I want to highlight the Portland Trailblazers. I think they're always fun.
Yes, when Portland is healthy, they've had some injuries. When Portland is healthy, they are a very entertaining watch, I think. Yes.
And then one that's close to my heart. I get it if people aren't into this team. Like, I really understand, but I love the Houston Rockets.
I'm gonna give a shout out for both Houston and Oklahoma City because I feel like I've been bullied by the internet into anti-Oklahoma City stuff, and it's ridiculous because you try to watch these other teams and these other games, and then you go back to an OKC game and you're like, why aren't I watching OKC all the time? They're incredible. They're really, really good. And I feel that way about Houston in the sense that Houston plays this big, bullying, weird style of basketball, but they are such bosses on the court. I can they let Udoka come out onto the court? Right? Like, no, I know. I'm saying we could legitimately he would respect the game. He wouldn't get in the way. But a lot of coaches, they insert themselves out. They stand in the coach's box and they bark and things like that. Udoka feels like he's a sixth player on the court. And I would love to see him just wandering around on the court like George Costanza's dad or something. I mean, it would be absolutely incredible.
That dude would set some punishing screens. I mean, he's an all-time just like
I'm saying like a referee. I'm saying like he should be allowed to be on the court like a referee and not interfere with the game, but just get closer to the players to yell at them.
I agree with you, but I'm also
I would pay money to see this.
Highlighting the fact that he would probably set some wonderful screens out there. OKC, the thing with OKC is with their playoff run last year, I watched so much of them in the playoffs. I watched so much OKC in the playoffs. And then I started with a couple of games and I'm like, yeah, this is OKC. And I just haven't been watching them because I feel like I get it, right? Like, I don't know if I'm going to watch and be blown away, but like I get the AJ Mitchell experience. You could see Chet developing. Shea is obviously on a heater again this season. So that's all exciting stuff. I bet you I would have them higher if I watched them more, but they're basically undefeated. And I'm like, great, I'll catch up with you in the playoff start.
I got to give a shout out to Philly just for Tyrese Maxey.
Oh my God.
Is his nickname Mad Maxey? Can we call him that?
Oh, there it is.
It feels perfect, right?
That's it. Yeah. He's Mad Maxey.
He's unbelievable. He's absolutely unbelievable to watch.
Can I ask you, might be, we're an hour in. Let's ask this question. Who do you think's better right now, Tyrese Maxey or Devin Booker?
I thought you were going to say we could end the show and you're just bringing up new topics. This is the longest post show ever. It's because you're not going to be here next week.
I'm waiting for an answer.
Yeah. If I were forced to, are you asking based on how they've played, based on if we had a game tomorrow, or based on what I think at the end of the year we will say?
Wow. Let's say tomorrow. Game tomorrow.
Tomorrow, I'm taking Tyrese Maxey.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you think Booker, like, is your implication there that you think Booker might be at a higher level come playoff time?
No, my implication is that I think this is an ascension from Maxey. And anytime someone ascends, it's hard to fully get your bearings in a really small sample. But he's been just playing out of his mind. He's absolutely incredible. I'm honestly interested to see where he ends up at the end of the season. So it was entirely a question about Maxey. Yeah. Something
that interests me, maybe some Sixers fans who've watched a lot more over the years can correct me. He seems angrier. He seems to have more of a feisty demeanor out on the court. I don't remember that quite as much. I thought he was a little bit more quiet, not in people's faces, but this year he's like grabbing the reins of aggressiveness. And, I kind of dig it. I'm kind of dig it, Ben.
We need more behind the scenes material on what he did in the offseason to go from where he was last year to where he is this year, because he's playing like 40 minutes a game. His energy and motor are off the charts. He has these flashes of Steph Curry. He's playing defense. We should do a whole episode on Maxey. What are we doing, Cody? Let's get out of here. Let's stop teasing stuff.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. I wonder if there's even a psychological thing where he knows Paul George is injured. Like Embiid is like, hey man, I'm not 100%. You're just going to have to go out there and do your thing. So I wonder if there's almost like a freeing, like, okay, I am in charge now. This team is mine. We're going to run it exactly how I want it to be run. Obviously, you can't do that without the coaching staff, but I bet you Nurse was in his ear. Like, we're going to have to do things a little bit differently if Embiid and George aren't going to be out there. So I wonder if that's a big part of it.
All right, Cody won't be here next week. We have no idea what the show will look like. It might be me just looking at box scores. That's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it as always, and of course that you are all having a great day.